Welcome back to the channel, the Debrief, Up the Villa podcast. Get involved in the comment sections down below. Subscribe to the channel. Let's have a like target. Let's go big like target. Hit that like button, 600. Let's get 600 likes on this then. So Brentford 1, Aston Villa 1. Joined by Justin. We're going to run through the whole game, debrief, etc. Go into a bit of detail as well. So, yeah, I think, to be fair, I walked out the ground and, an initial fan cam, it's quite emotional, isn't it? It's quite, the emotions are still going through your body. I do think I didn't do Buendia enough credit. And, it was a good point. It was a good point. Not that I was saying that it wasn't, but I just feel like, I've looked back and thought, that's a solid point away at Brentford. It keeps us ticking over, and it sets up Tuesday night really well for Villa. So, Justin, what did you make of the game as a whole before we go into too much detail?
Yeah, I think I totally get your initial reactions coming out of the ground, because I think overall it was disappointing, and it only disappointing based on the previous few results, isn't it? And I think, once you hit those kind of levels, when you do see a game where you drop below them, you are very frustrated because you know what they're capable of. But I think you're right. I think overall, based on the whole game, I think it's a very, very good point, to be honest. I think first half was pretty even. Two
Yeah.
teams going for it, a couple of half chances either way. And then second half, we just didn't come out. I think the Martinez substitution did knock the confidence a little bit. I think we dropped a little bit too deep. You just don't get the same. I think you just realise how good a keeper Martinez is when he's not there, and his aura sort of radiates along the whole pitch, doesn't it? And Olsen.
You've muted yourself.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, he's a nice enough bloke, but he just doesn't. He doesn't command the area as well as Martinez does he, and I think it definitely led to that sort of period of the game where they started to really get on top. I really like that, and Wemo, he's very frustrating. As an opposition player, but he's very, very effective. A lot of the best stuff they did came through him, and we struggled to sort of get a foothold in the game. We couldn't get Ollie Watkins in the game. I did think, for me, Buendia was our best player by probably a bit, by country mile, to be honest, by the end of the game. And everybody else struggled. Ashley Young was targeted. We'll get onto that, I know. The left Moano didn't have as good a game he's been having. The two centre-halves were under a lot of pressure. So overall, based on the last 10 minutes, once we, to be honest, I didn't see the goal coming from anywhere. I couldn't see us scoring yesterday. I didn't know where it was going to come from. So when it came, it just shows that perseverance and that dogged nature that we have got now, we can dig ourselves out of these little holes. And now we're 9 unbeaten, which is huge. Had we lost yesterday, you're back to the drawing board. It's a bit of a kick, and we've got some tough games coming up. So overall,
You've muted yourself again.
Overall, disappointing performance, but a very good point by the end of the game.
Yeah, he made some really good points. It was a really frustrating game to watch. And we said on the preview and the predicted line, we really praised Brentford, didn't we? We praised Thomas Frank tactically, and I think he really got it spot on. And I think, it's okay saying that we were poor, but they were actually quite good. They did things in that game that really stifled us, and I think that was a credit to Frank and credit for Brentford, because that they were able to sort of shut out Moreno, targeted Young. The midfield, they were winning that little battle. They were dynamic with Mbeumo, and Tony was really good. So, I mean, before the game, it was a bit mad when Joanne Lang walked into the pub next to the ground. I thought that was a little bit of a mad one. But yeah, so we'll get into the game and we'll get into some of the numbers and stuff like that then. So If we have a look at the possession, Villa dominated possession, 58%. We had 14 shots and they had 2. They had 16 and they had 5 on target. They had 8 corners and we had 4. Big chances, 4 for Brentford, 3 for Villa. We missed 2, they missed 3. That was a little bit of a worry, really. So how many passes did we make? We made 415 passes, 79% passing accuracy. They had 299 and 69%. Shots by XG by the minute. We'll get on to the ebb and flow of the game in a second, because I think this graphic now really shows the game. To be fair, I think first half, like Justin said, it was pretty even. It was a bit bitty. It was a bit end-to-endy vibe. You know, they'd have a bit of a spell, we'd have one. Got to half-time. They came out like a steam train. And then towards the end of the game, when Villa were pushing, you can see on this graphic. So that graphic's pretty good, isn't it, Justin?
Yeah, I think it definitely shows the game in a nutshell. Because if you look at how much dominance they did have just after half time, them 2 huge spikes in dominance. It's even more credit to us that just after the second spike, that we do start to fight our way into the game, and by the end of the game, look at that massive one at the end. For us, we were the only team that was going to win it. If that game was another 10 minutes longer, I've no doubt we'd have gone on and won that game. It was a real shame that Ollie couldn't bury that header right at the end. I know Buendia was absolutely furious because he felt he had a real clear header on target. But in the form Watkins is in, he's never not going to take that opportunity and try and score, is he? So, yeah, a real good overview of the game, that is. How I saw it as well, to be honest.
And I think we give Emery a lot of credit every single week. But those 3 substitutions that we made, for me, changed that game. At that moment in time, when those 3 came on, Chambers came on and he added that defensive, like, solid vibe on that right-hand side, didn't he? I think Luca Dean was really good in the sense of he wasn't giving Brentford that opposition like that chance of winning the ball back. I think what he was doing, he was just trying to get the ball in early, and I think that's one of Luca Dean's good traits, in that he can whip that ball in from a little bit deeper. So he wasn't having to try and get to the byline. So I think that added a little bit more of shape, and Traoré coming on, and I felt like what it did do is it gave us like a bit more of a territorial advantage. I think towards the end of the game, we were really sort of like camped in with our shape. And I think that's what really, really helped. It was that shape that camped us in, and we had that long spell. And, I think if that game went on for another 5-10 minutes, I think we would have got the winner.
It's just a shame. Those substitutions, it's a shame because they were ready to come on before they scored.
Yeah, they were,
And it's such a shame that he couldn't get him on the pitch 5 minutes earlier, because maybe that goal doesn't happen, because Young's been phenomenal this season, but he'll be bitterly disappointed he didn't get anything on that cross when it came across.
Yeah. So here's the shot XG. Brentford, quite a few shots in it, really, but we did have a few as well. So this is the average positions from Villa. So I think what you can see from this is what we were saying earlier, is that they really shut Moreno down, because Moreno's a little bit deeper than what he'd normally be. They've peppered in Ashley Young, so he was really sort of having to really work defensively. I think the double pivot and the midfield positions look okay, but I think you can really see from the Brentford average positions how attacking actually went in this game. That's not the back 4 there. That's the forward 4. So you can see that what I think really happened is they really sort of like outflanked us. And what it meant was that they were all around us. Like, their shape here is so wide, this sort of circle shape that they've got going on. And what you can really see from it is their passing network shows that it was like they were all around us. And I think that's really also tells the tale of the game that whenever we sort of got the ball, we were swamped and they would win the second balls, the third balls, and that game plan really, really worked against Villa because, I mean, that it doesn't really look like a passing network, but I think that the shape of it tells the tale of how they played.
I think the passing network, especially that one, shows that the way that Frank has looked at us and thought, okay, we need to pen their fullbacks back in because they're very
Yeah,
important to Villa, and that's exactly what they did. They're heavy down the flanks, aren't they? So
yeah,
Hickey and Mbeumo, and then Henry and Sharda and Janelt down the left. You know, it proves that what we said before the game, that Frankie's a very, very good tactical thinker of the game. So, you know, he did cause us a lot of trouble yesterday, and all credit to Villa that we did come out without losing that game because they've got a fantastic home record. Probably I'm as guilty as anyone is probably just thinking we were going to go and steamroller them, but they've only lost twice at home all season, and you know they're up top of the league for a reason, aren't they? So I think overall it was a very good tactical game, exactly what we said in the
yeah.
preview. I was really looking forward to watching it play out on the pitch. I think they got marginally the upper hand, but we did enough to not lose. So I think it's a lot of credit to us.
And then you can see from our passing network again, Moreno, the network's not as free flowing, should we say? There, you know, Moreno never played passes into Ramsey. I think this area, you know, worked quite nicely. But I think, you know, you can again just see from the graphic that, you know, Young and Moreno, you know, were really like shepherding really. So, you know, it's not a bad network, but I think you can tell that where the problems lied.
Yeah, one thing I will say is about just picking on Buendia. He felt like a leader on the pitch yesterday, something I haven't seen from him from a long time. He felt like he was one trying to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and drive us forward. He was everywhere on the pitch. He was really, crunching into tackles. He was trying to get the ball all the time. He was trying to create things. He was mega frustrated when things weren't going our way. You know, he was orchestrating it, to be honest. Now, the three behind Watkins, he was the real bright spark yesterday. I thought McGinn was off it. I thought he was better when he went back into the double pivot. And I thought Ramsey had one of his games where he tried a lot of things that just didn't come off. So, yeah, massive respect to Buendia yesterday. And it was a lovely assist as well for the goal, to be fair. Real calmness of thought in a real tightly packed box to pick out Douglas Luiz for the goal. So, yeah, really, really good game for him yesterday.
Yeah, I just wanted to try and highlight to try and show you, you know, sort of back up what we're saying about really targeting Ashley Young. You can see here now that there's a long raking crossfield ball that has found. I think that's going to find Tony, and then you know he stretched his knees, isolated, and then when this ball goes in, that tackle for Moreno. You know, it was an absolute fantastic tackle to a last-ditch lunge to win that ball because that looked like that was going to go in as well. But I did a tweet and I mentioned Olsen in this tweet, and I mentioned and I said in the fan cam that I think he trains in a different training ground to.
I think he tries a different universe.
Now, what I'm trying to say about this point that I'm trying to make is I can totally understand that Olsen is not as good as Martinez. It would be ridiculous to even think that he's the same level because he's not. But what I felt yesterday watching the game, and I just really didn't understand, was why he can't kick. Like why he goes long every single time. And I'm just like, we don't play like that. Like we don't play hoofball. So for the keeper to keep booting it and like giving the opposition a chance in the game where 50-50s we weren't winning. We weren't winning the third balls. We weren't winning the second balls. It just invited pressure to me. And I just really didn't understand it. And it just felt like he weren't on the right page for me. And I know some fans will say, you know, it's a difficult job. He's coming in. He's he's coming into an environment where it's a difficult game at half time, but I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it. And my criticism was the kicking. And I mean, this instance here where he could have gave a pen away in this instance for me, because he had no idea that this player was behind him, and he tried to flap at it on that second chance, and he spurned it, and he should have buried it. But for me, this was just appalling. I mean, I don't want to dig him out because I don't want to feel like I'm really going at him, but you know, we're at the business end of the season here, and it's really we're at fine margins. And for me, this just weren't good enough. I mean, Justin, have I been unfair or?
No, not really. I think you've basically said everything you need to say about him. The problem with Olsen is, and it's not even his fault, is he just hasn't got the same skill set as Emi Martinez. But having said that, there ain't many keepers in the world that, like you say, have got the same skill set as Emi Martinez. We are incredibly lucky to have the first choice goalkeeper that we've got. Olsen, he was just here when Emery was arrived, so he's got no other choice to have him as our backup. Jed Steer, I think arguably would be our backup if he was anything like fit, but he hasn't been, and he looks like he's out anyway. And then you've got the two young keepers, that's Sinsalo, that we've watched a few times in the reserves. Could he have come in and do a job? It's a huge ask for a young keeper to come on at half time in a really important Premier League game. So ultimately, Olsen is a Swedish international. He's just not good enough, and it's not his fault. It's an area we will 1,000,000% be looking at to upgrade in the summer. How good a reserve keeper you can get, I don't really know, because you're basically saying you're very rarely going to play because we've got the world's best goalkeeper as our number one. So it's a tough job and a tough gig for anybody to come in and sort of play back up to Emi Martinez. So, but I do think what he would be doing in the summer is looking at a goalkeeper with a totally different skill set to Olsen. Somebody like you say, who's comfortable on the deck with his feet, can be drilled and trained in exactly the same way as Martinez is. So at least if he does have to come on, like yesterday's instance, then, you've got a transference of skills from one keeper to the next, and it should be pretty much seamless, shouldn't it? And I totally get what you're saying, that, you put a reserve keeper on that trains on the same training ground with the same training coaches, why aren't they doing the same thing?
I think my main point I'm trying to make is, we all know how we play. We all know that we play out from the back. And the problem I've got with Olsen is, when he plays, fundamentally, that's not how we can play. And that is a big problem, because we play out from the back. The amount of times you see Martinez trapping it, calming it, knocking it left, those little dinkers, that's out the window. So I think if Martinez is out, we can't have someone coming in that has to disrupt how we're trying to play, and that's my biggest point, really.
It must be simply, it's got to be as simple as that our coaches, he says, I just can't do that. I'm not comfortable doing that. I haven't got a passing range to do that. I feel like if I did a couple of times, yes, he delayed on the ball in the second half, and he almost got caught in possession, kicking it. So it must be that the coaching staff are saying, look, we know you can't do this, so you've just got to go long. You've just got to, route one, you've got to get rid of the ball if you're not comfortable doing it. So it's a shame. The only good thing about yesterday, what happened to Martinez yesterday, it wasn't an injury, it was an illness. Yeah. So hopefully a couple of days rest and he'll be okay for the running.
Thank God for that. Right, so another positive, and I'm going to get onto this now. The big positive is the fighting spirit, right? The ability, and the regular viewers will know that I say, if you play shit and win, that is a good trait to have, right? The fact that I think we were below par, Brentford in that second half were pretty dominant. For Villa to dig in and fight back for that point is really good. And I think that's the sign of a really good team. I mean, you're looking at what, Arsenal are doing. Again, I go back to how many times have we played really well and lost and everything like that. To dig in and fight for that point, I can't tell you how big it is because it's absolutely huge. And I think, to get that goal as well. And I think, when I was saying earlier about Luca Dean getting in that right area, just that whipped in ball, I think it was really, really good. And I think Luca Dean needs big credit for when he came on because I think he really helped us, get that point. And you can see, bodies in the box, all trying to get on the end of something. The awareness of Buendia to get this. When I was watching it, we'd had that one just before, hadn't we? We'd had that little bit of a mad scramble. The ball went back to McGinn, and it was sort of like, right, what can we do differently now? And I think everybody positioned themselves. And I mean, look at Dougie. Give me the ball. Give me the ball. And again, I mean, when
I'll tell you what as well.
Yeah.
That's not an easy finish, Douglas Luiz.
No, he had to
He's hit it first time, yeah?
Yeah.
The ball's, it's not, it's not rolled into him, it's fizzed into him, and he's hit it first time and managed. I know everyone will say, oh, he's 8 yards out, but, he's under a lot of pressure. The ball's, he's crawling for it, and he's just got to get a really good connection and get it on target. You look at that effort that the Brentford lad had when he went around the keeper earlier in the game. It's when you've got that, when that moment is yours, and you've got one chance to try and strike it on target. It's a nice finish.
Yeah, well, it was a good finish, and the Leicester limbs were great, and the limbs were good yesterday. The limbs were good yesterday to get that point.
Timing helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, and do you know what? Celebrating a goal when you know it means something bigger than just a point or bigger than just a win. I don't know. It feels really, really good. So I think to summarise on the game, I think we did really, really well to fight back and come back. We did have some chances in the game as well. Let's not say, we didn't have any because Buendia in the first half, McGinn in the first half, Ramsey when he was through as well. I think that was a big chance.
Very good chance, yeah.
That was when the momentum started to go. So, I think some fans would say, we needed to win. We should have won. We needed to win the game. But, I think I was saying to the guys before the game, I'd take a point here. I would really take a point. And I think, again, it's just like when we beat Chelsea, Leicester, take the run back to Villa Park. Was it for Forest? Or Bournemouth or something like that. I think it's really important to get that point, take it back to Villa Park on Tuesday, so the whole ground is still in Europe mode and the atmosphere. So again, I think that will be a really difficult game, but I think there'll be some changes in the lineup, but we'll go into that in detail. And got a short turnaround. Big shout out to the two guys that I saw at the pub before the match. I can't remember your names. I'm really sorry. The one guy had never been to England before from America, and he was watching his first Villa game. They're both going to the game against Fulham, and they are big fans of the podcast. So, that's just mad that, like, all the way in America, they go, "You're right, you, Luke?" And I'm like, yeah. And they're from America. So shout out to those guys. I'm really glad that you got to see, got to see us get a point, and hopefully we can get you the win on Tuesday. So Justin, how do you feel like it sets up the Europe vibe? Now, Liverpool got their win, didn't they? I think we kind of need Newcastle to do us a favour. I personally think Spurs are going to drop. I think they are going to drop out of it. I think the threes, Brighton, Liverpool and Villa for Europe. I think Spurs are going to drop out of it completely. Where are you at?
I think, if I'm brutally honest, the mega dream of Champions League is gone now, barring a win of, especially given the fixtures we've got. We've got some really, really tough fixtures coming up. So I think that's got to be shelved now, unless we win 8. The last 6 games on the trot. Yeah, I think I think if United get through in the FA Cup today to the final, then I've looked at a bit of research, and I think it drops to 7th for Europe. So I think I think the lowest we can possibly finish, barring a disaster, is 8th. So top 7 would be Europe. So I think we're massively. We'll never have a better chance of finishing in European places this season. I think Newcastle. I thought a Spurs win, if we would have won yesterday, would have been good, because it would have really tightened up to 4th. But now I think I'd like Newcastle to beat Spurs and really put a spanner in their works. We've still got to play Spurs. We've still got to play United. We've still got to play Brighton. So all the Liverpool we've got to play still. So it is massively in our hands. If we can just pick up a few positive results in those games, then I think top 7 is really, really on this season. I think we've got to win on Tuesday. That's a must-win game for us. And then we go to United next weekend, which is a huge game for us. But I think if we can replicate the form of last week against Newcastle, then we'll go to Old Trafford with nothing to fear at all. I really think we'll give them a really good game. So, yes, the European train is still massively on. I think we've just got to ride it now to the end of the season. Positive result Tuesday. Go to Old Trafford in a positive mentality. And I think Europe is on the cards.
I think, for me, the good thing about our fixtures is that we're playing all the teams that are around us. So,
it's in your own hands.
It's not like, say, if we beat so-and-so, it won't make a difference, because then they can, we're playing the teams that are in and around us. And I think when you are playing well, and when you are a good side, and when you can beat anybody, I don't look at our fixtures and think, oh God, we've got these, we've got these, we've got these. I think the way we are playing right now, we can beat anybody. So whether we've got tough teams to come or whoever, for me, it's completely irrelevant, because I think I look at it now and I think we can literally beat any of them. So,
the last 2 games of the season, Liverpool away, Brighton at home.
yeah.
How big are they going to be?
I kind of think if Brighton can get to the final, then them on that last day, their heads are going to be thinking about that final. So,
yeah,
I don't know. We've just got, like you say, it's not in our hands, because some teams got games in hand, but it's in our hands that we've got to play those teams. So,
yeah.
And we saw again, like yesterday, that, when you are thinking that we're not playing that great, there's the desire, then the belief to sort of come back and salvage something. And that's the sign of a really good team. I do really now think that Ashley Young needs a break. I think it really did show, yesterday, that they targeted him. So I would hope that Cash or Chambers or someone can come in on Tuesday, because I think they've got pacey players, Fulham. But, I'm really looking forward to the game on Tuesday. The atmosphere under the lights. They're okay, Fulham. They're a decent team. But I think we can really sort of regroup and put in a big performance at home, because you look at it and you sometimes think, you go away from home and that Brentford, they don't sing, the stadium's really small, you don't hear a peep out of them, they're just a really nice club, but still it's a difficult place to go. And I think Tuesday night for Fulham is a difficult place to go to.
Under the lights, he'll be great as well.
Yeah,
It's great timing that we're getting a floodlit game now, just a real critical part of the season, because it's easier to get that stadium rocking, isn't it, when you've got a night game?
Yeah, and there's, when was the last night game that we had something on it? We always say, don't we, like, Villa Park under the lights, you can't beat it. But Villa Park under the lights, and you're going for Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got a different little sparkle to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be a real good atmosphere on Tuesday night.
Yeah, and so that's good. Season ticket. Should we touch on it just as we end? Villa's season tickets are going up 15% across the board. So it's disappointing. It's disappointing, and I can, if I'm being brutally honest, this is my brutal opinion on it. I can understand them going up a percentage, right? So
Yeah.
I can understand a 5, a 10%. I'm a bit like, I slightly understand, because I understand that argument of you want good players, you want to be in Europe, you want to increase a nice new stadium. That's got to pay for something. But the 15 is a bit, you take it, for me, you're taking the piss a bit, because you've already had an increase last season. There's certain fan bases that had an increase, like a block increase, like a category increase, and a percentage. Now you're saying a 15%. I just think it's a bit. I think it's a bit too much. I think. What do you think?
Well, this is an email I received from the Independent Supporters Association. It says that they're increased by 15% and will move us into the top 8 of the Premier League benchmarking. Christian Purslow explained to the meeting that he's acutely aware of everybody's experiencing the effects of a cost of living crisis. However, the club itself is not immune to those economic pressures. The owners have supported Villa with over £400 million of their own money, but football finance rules only permit them to do so much, so we now have an elite manager who's already made incredible progress in such a small time. The board's desire is to give you and I the best opportunity to continue his work. So, that's political chat, I suppose. It's a reason why they feel like they have to put the prices up. And this is a massively emotive subject. The message boards go off, Twitter goes off. For fans, I feel really, I make a conscious decision. I don't drink, I don't smoke. My one real love in life is going to watch Villa. So unless I am financially incapable, I will always pay for my season ticket, almost regardless. I know that sounds really daft, because last year I was suffered because they went up that much. I didn't renew my wife and children, so that was a big blow to me. But their passion for Villa isn't my passion for Villa. I choose to prioritise my money that I spend on something that gives me joy, and that's Villa. I feel for people that feel the same way about the club that I do, but can't financially now afford to buy a season ticket. Those are the fans I really feel for now, that they are now priced out, that have got the passion of fans like myself who can afford to buy a season ticket. So I do really, really feel sorry for that group and that section. And there will be lots of fans now that look at the price increase and go, that's just took me out of the equation now. And those are the ones I really feel sorry for. Football is whether you like it or not, it's dominated by money, transfer fees, wages, prices. And following a football club isn't cheap. If you go home and away, it's very expensive. Shirt prices are really expensive.
Yeah.
And you do feel as a fan that you are sort of screwed a lot of the time. But they're playing on your emotion. They're playing on your, on the fact that we've got a huge waiting list. It's supply and demand, like in any business. I'm not saying football is a business, but ultimately for our owners, it is a business. They need to see a return on their investment. And ultimately, in the longer term, we need to see Villa being self-sufficient. It's great we've got owners like we have now currently, but what happens in the future if those owners disappear? We've seen that in the past that, I'd rather have a club that's self-sufficient. By self-sufficient, I mean the income, pays for all the outgoings, and we don't have to rely on our owners having to pump 10, 20 million pounds of investment in every now and again to pay the wages, to pay bits and bobs. They're putting a huge amount of money into to redevelop the stadium. They've got that academy at Brookvale, which is going to be open by the end of next season. Their commitment to our football club is undeniable. They have now handed us a world-class manager, and we are going to be competing, hopefully, now, if in Europe. Now, if our season tickets prices are now top 8 of the Premier League, which is what Purslow is saying, then they have to now. That's the part of the pit. That's the part of the Premier League we now have to, year on year, have to be competing in. If we're paying top 8 prices, we want a top 8 team, and that then pushes it back on them to make sure that's what they're giving us. That's what we are paying for. That's what you're telling us we are now paying for. So at the very least now we have to be competing in the top 8 of the Premier League season on season, which means huge investment in the summer. Once the season ends, what will all the fans be wanting? Big signings. We want big signings. We want that. We're probably going to break our transfer record this summer, and that brings a huge wage bill as well on top of that. So, whilst season tickets, if you look at the actual income it brings, it's not the biggest income we have. That's another argument. I don't know. It's a very emotive subject. I get both. I get all sides. I try and look at it very evenly. So, we'll see what happens.
The way I'm the same as you. I look at it exactly the same. I can understand why they want to do it and why they have done it, and I can understand the frustration of fans. And even I remember even when they did it last season, and that I remember us speaking about it, and we were saying, you've put the price up now, the ambition has got to go, because you'll get fans that are saying, well, I'm paying this now, and this is what I'm doing. Looking back now, we are where we were trying to say that we should have been, aren't we, really?
Yeah.
Because we are in 6th place. So, it's really frustrating. And, and the other thing as well, what they've done is they're getting rid of that free cup game as well, aren't they? So, normally, we'd have that free cup game every season. Ticket holder gets the first home game free. They've scrapped that as well now. So,
I think also we're paying the price now of all the previous owners. And when we was in the Championship, we froze the season ticket prices for quite a few seasons, didn't we? So there was no increase. I might be wrong on this, for 2 or 3 seasons, I'm sure. Now, that's great doing that at that time. But what you're doing then is you're falling behind other clubs' pricing strategies. Now, when we've caught up very quickly, as in league position, and now we've caught up in league position. You look at our ticket prices; they were pretty well below where the standard Premier League top 8 tickets were. So we're having to see bigger increases to catch up to that. So hopefully this is the last big increase. Hopefully now we are in that bracket of equal to a lot of the clubs. Then it would just be a small increase season on season. If we saw a 15% rise every season, I think there would be trouble. So let's hope and pray this is the last big increase and it's caught us up with everyone else. And from now on, it's just a small increase, depending on what is happening in the world each year.
Cool. Right. Thought we'd just touch on it, because I know some fans probably would want us to touch on it. So that's it, the debrief. Quick turnaround. Brentford's done. Let's go to Fulham. So we will have our match preview. Will be out tomorrow morning, and then we'll have our predicted lineup will be out on the day of the game. And then we'll have fan cam. Hope Mr. Wardrobe is going to be there. Hopefully he's going to be back. I think he will be. But yeah, fan cams will be back after the Fulham game. I guess it'll be too late for a match reaction, so we'll have a bit like this. Debrief will be on the Wednesday morning, and then we'll just turn our attention to Manchester United. We did have a load of people at the fan cam, so if you do want to come on the fan cam, just come by. Just give me the little nod that you want to do it, and we'll do the fan cam as well. So yeah, fan cams will be straight after the game, usual spot. So hopefully we'll see you there. We'll have a match preview for Fulham. Will be out tomorrow morning. So up the Villa.
Up the Villa.